channel. This video is going to be about a fall cleanup and how I tackle it every year. I have what I call the 4 C's, and that consists of clearing and then cleaning and composting and covering. So the first one, in the clearing, I go through and I collect all of my tools and things that are in different parts that I keep in different areas at the ready for whenever I'm out during my regular gardening season. Also different types of equipment, i.e. hoses, need to get put away in the winter, especially in our climate where we get some freezing temperatures. You don't want your hoses to have water in it, they crack, you just lost a hose and you'll have to then replace it. Any kind of stakes that you have, metal stakes, particularly the wooden stakes you have as row markers or anything like that. Any kind of plant tags that you put there so you know what was growing. Those plastic things, oh, they're just, bring them in, use them again, rub off the old marker, and so they'll be ready to use, for your new starts in the springtime. The wooden row markers and things like that, those will decompose underneath the ground and they'll just break off, and then you'll have a shorter stick to use. So also trellises. For example, I had my bean arbor. You can see the bean arbor was right over here on those raised beds in the background. I took that down. If you have a permanent structure that can't come down, that's one thing. Usually I rotate my plants throughout the garden, the next year. I plan on putting the bean arbor in another location, so I just disassembled it, took it all down. Our snows in the winter time and the severe weather can be quite hard on structures and things like that. Best to just take it down and put it away. So after clearing out all of the hardscape type things around the yard, what you want to do then is clean up. And cleaning up comprises of all the old vegetation that was left in the garden, all the old plants. They need to either be pulled. Oftentimes I would just cut them off at the soil level, leave the roots and things in the ground to decompose naturally. Beans and legumes and things like that, they have the nitrogen fixating nodules on the roots. Let those decompose, let that go back into the soil. That's really important, and it's a good help for anything else that's going to grow there next year in that location. So if you have any diseased plants that are they still may contain spores and things like that. If you have powdery mildew, get rid of the entire plant. Pull it up, roots and all. Take it out. Don't compost it. Burn it. Or as I sometimes do, I put it off into the woods area and just let it decompose naturally out there. Nothing that I'm going to be using again as compost in my garden. If you have blights and spots and mildews and things like that, anything on there, just get rid of it, get it out of your garden. Chances are you'll have a little bit, again, but hopefully you'll be able to deal with that come next year. So after that, now you're ready to compost. I top dress all of my beds with compost that I've made during the summer. If I don't have enough, and if I haven't purchased any, I will just use partially decomposted things in the garden. Shredded leaves. I have a video that I gave a little tip for helping with the shredding of leaves. I don't have a shredder, and so I usually use a weed whacker to help shred up my leaves. And I top dress my gardens with that. I have chickens, which are scratching around in the background. I put chicken bedding and stuff, and even if it's not composted, I will put that right on top of the beds anyway. So after top dressing, you can, during that process, you can add fertilizers. You can amend your soils at that time. I often give all of my beds a little sprinkling of bone meal. That's good for the phosphorus. It helps with the root structure of the plants that are growing in your garden. Doesn't hurt to do that now. Just saves an extra step that you don't have to do in the springtime. So that brings us to the fourth and final one, which I say cover. Most of my gardens get covered with either a heavy, thick milled black plastic, or if in some instances where I have, some row covers here in the background, so I'm still growing some plants, I'm not going to cover that with plastic. I'm just going to let those continue. I will use straw. I use straw in my chicken run, so I'll take that and put that down as a covering. Or I have chicken bedding that I'll put down even just kind of raw. And if you cover that with this black plastic, then the plastic retains the heat. The heat cooks all this vegetation and everything like that, and it will start decomposing, and by springtime, you're ready to start right with that incorporated into your soils. By covering your soils with the black plastic, it does a number of things. Number one, it helps in the decomposition of all those materials that you put down and top dressed your beds with. It does that. It also helps in weed control. Now, there are weeds that stick around, and there are perennial weeds, and they continue to grow throughout the winter, slowly, but still they continue to grow, and then you have to deal with them come springtime. So rather than having that one more chore to do in the springtime, you've weeded in the cleaning part. Now get those weeds out, and the weed seeds now will be killed by this black plastic because that heats things up, especially in the springtime when the sun starts coming higher in the sky and more intense. That'll heat up your soil. There's another thing that's good for it. So in the spring, you can perhaps start your planting a little bit early because your soil has then warmed up. If you don't have the black plastic, you don't have enough or anything like that, straw on top is really good. I use, as I said, I use straw. Also, if you put cardboard down, that's a help. Cardboard won't totally decompose by springtime, but you should be able to reap the benefits of that. In addition to those pluses, another plus is during the winter, I know we get high winds and you lose a lot. You can lose soil. It can actually dry out and blow away. So by covering it, you're keeping your wonderful, nutritiously packed soil under cover and in the ground and where you want it for your plants for next year. Okay, I just wanted to show you, this is what's underneath my plastic here in this particular bed. I have a nice moldy leaf thing going on here where we have beddings, pine shaving beddings. This is a brand new bed, so I am just starting to fill it with things. So this will be an underlayer on top in the spring when I get a delivery of compost. I'm going to top the whole bed off with that. Here is my strawberry bed, and I just let the leaves pile up in this. It adds a nice cozy layer of mulch to keep them warm throughout the winter. I'm sure we're going to get some heavy snows, which will also cover it up. Snow is a good insulator, so snow is not a bad thing in the wintertime. It helps keep any vegetation that you have from freezing hard, the leaves and all of that stuff. It's an insulator. Here is one of my raised beds in the main part of the garden. I have parsnips here in the foreground, and I have a row cover which is covering a partial row of parsnips plus carrots, which I'm trying to give a little bit more grow time before I harvest them. On the right hand side, I have a cover of straw down on the raised bed. Over this side, I've done my composting and covering with black plastic, and here on this side also. Here I have a row cover. This is where I have spinach and lettuces growing, and over here on this side I raked out my chicken run, which is full of straw, and you can probably see some chicken feathers in there from the molt that's been going on. And so this is how I top dress this one. This bed will probably stay like this for at least another month, until it gets too cold and the lettuce won't even be able to survive the cold temperatures that we'll have at that time. The garden's over here. The beds, the two over on the left-hand side, one has a garlic in it, and that is covered by straw and leaves, it looks to be. And then the other one on the left has leeks, which are piled with straw and leaves to keep them before I harvest them throughout the winter. That'll keep them a little bit warm, but they should even last all winter long to the spring. And these two are amended with compost and probably bone meal. Oh yes, definitely bone meal, and probably some shredded leaves with the black plastic on top. Here's a little sneak peek under the row cover at my lettuce crop. And look who's here under the row cover. Can you see the little daddy longleg? He'll be good. He'll get any bugs that are missing. Got some spinach here, some lettuce that I've been picking on, and on down there. So it held up well with our 26-degree freeze. And I'll just keep that going. Here I wanted to introduce you to a couple of my leaf shredders. This little one, my Buff Orpington, is Buffy. And my Easter egger, this is March. And they do a great job at shredding up leaves. A couple more down that way. Here's some of my flower gardens, and contrary to what I do in my vegetable garden, I don't do much cleanup in the flower garden. I kind of leave it the way it is. It adds some sculptural interest, but also the mulch that collects around the plants, and I have a good deal of perennial plants, adds a mulch and a little warmth to the crowns on a lot of those perennial plants on the roots. And also, a lot of the seeds are good for the native wild birds that visit. This is a butterfly bush, and the seed heads are great for the birds. Cone flowers here, a number of cone flowers. Of course, that's a holly, and those red berries are something the cedar waxwings just love. Here I poured in a whole bunch of leaves into the garden. It's going to give a cushion to my daylilies there. And there's my yucca. That is a hosta. Again, a very beautiful sculptural interest to the winter garden. And those are my scratchers. Well, thank you for sticking with me through this video. I hope that my 4 C's can help you in your fall cleanup for this year. And That way you will be ahead of the game come springtime and be ready to plant with me again. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. I would certainly appreciate it. Subscribe if you would like. Share on your social media platforms, and also hit the bell if you want to be notified for any future videos that I have. So thank you very much, and I will see you on the next video. Bye-bye.